What's up, Cowboys Nation? Buckle up because we got a big one today. The Dallas Cowboys finally pulled the trigger on a trade that's been floating around the rumor mill for a while, and now it's official. A wide receiver is heading to Dallas, and we're not talking about just any piece to fill the roster. This move could really shake up the offensive unit and change the dynamic of the team going forward. So yeah, this is big. Let's break this thing down. The Cowboys received not only a wide receiver, but also a sixth-round pick for the 2027 NFL Draft, but not the upcoming one. We're talking the one after that. In return, they gave up a fifth-rounder for the same year. So at first glance, this looks like one of those day 3 swap kind of deals, right? But here's the kicker. The real value in this trade isn't the late-round shuffle. It's the third-round pick for the 2026 draft that Dallas sent out. That's the chip that made this whole deal happen. That's the weight behind the transaction. Before this move, Dallas hadn't really been targeting that range of the draft for trades, at least not based on what we've been hearing. But this time, they decided to be a little bold. And honestly, it might just pay off. This isn't just about numbers on a draft chart. This is about plugging a hole that was becoming way too visible in the roster, the lack of a true WR2. And that's what makes this addition so important. Now, let's talk about the guy himself. He's not just a complimentary piece. He's a real threat. We're talking about a player who, even though he only played in 14 games last season, still managed to rack up 900 receiving yards. That's no joke. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Over the last 2 seasons, he's averaging over 16 yards per catch. That puts him in elite territory, folks. Not many guys can say they've picked up more than 2,000 receiving yards in that span, while also maintaining that kind of explosiveness. It shows you exactly what kind of player Dallas just brought in. Of course, it's not all sunshine. There are definitely concerns. We'll get into some of the red flags in a bit. But for now, let's acknowledge the upside. Because for this season, at least, he's projected to be the WR2. That's the spot he fills right now. And that role was wide open. There was a void. And if anything happened to CeeDee Lamb, knock on wood, the Cowboys would have been in real trouble with the group they had. Before this trade, you could easily argue that this was one of the weakest wide receiver core in the league outside of their WR1. Now, they're at least back in the conversation as an average to above average group. The depth chart gets a little more interesting now. We've seen guys like Cavani Turpin and Jonathan Mingo trying to fight their way up, but Jalen Tolbert was the one who started standing out a bit. Still, without Lamb, this unit would have been hanging by a thread. Honestly, it might have been the least efficient receiving core in the entire NFL. That's how thin things were. So, yeah, this new guy makes a real difference. And here's the part one love. He fits the scheme. He's the kind of player who can play off Lamb well. Whether it's speed or size you want opposite CD, this guy brings it. You don't need him to turn into the next Dez Bryant, but it helps to have someone who can stretch the field vertically. Enter George Pickens. That's right, the Cowboys are getting a guy who's built to be a downfield menace. It's been a long time since Dallas had a vertical threat like this. He's got the height, he's got the hands, and he's got that breakaway speed. Let's talk measurables. Pickens stands at 6'3", clocks a 40-yard dash at 4.47 seconds, and weighs in around 220 pounds. Those are real numbers. Those are stats you can't ignore. He's the kind of guy who makes defensive backs uncomfortable before the snap. And he's coming into a system where his role is clearly defined. Stretch the field, win on the outside, and be the physical mismatch that Dallas has been missing. But here's where it gets spicy. The Cowboys didn't just stumble into this deal. They've been under pressure. Fans have been begging them to make a move like this. For years, people have complained that this team doesn't do enough, that they settle for being just good enough to win 9 or 10 games and then fizzle out. This move? It tells a different story. It says they're willing to take a risk. It's a selectively aggressive approach, and frankly, that's what they needed. So yeah, credit where it's due. This is the kind of transaction you want to see from a front office that's finally trying to build a real contender. Of course, the conversation doesn't end here, because with Pickens, you're also getting the full package, and that includes some baggage. Let's talk about that because it matters. Pickens has had some discipline issues in the past. We're not talking about legal problems or anything like that, but there have been concerns about his attitude, his commitment, his maturity. His head coach called him out publicly at one point. That's not nothing. There were issues with tardiness, missing meetings, being late to team events. And you can't just sweep that under the rug, especially not in a locker room that's trying to foster a healthy culture. The Cowboys have said time and time again they want to create the right environment. So now the challenge becomes, can that environment support a guy like this? Can they channel his talent without letting the drama get in the way? In theory, the Cowboys have a strong locker room with real leadership. Guys like Dak Prescott and Zach Martin help set the tone. But let's be real, it's always a gamble. You never really know how a personality like Pickens will mesh until he's in the building day in, day out. That's part of why he was even available in the first place. If things had been smooth in Pittsburgh, they never would have let him go. So yeah, it's a risk. And there's more. Let's not forget that this is the final year of Pickens' rookie deal. That's right, no fifth-year option. No guarantee he sticks around. According to reports, he doesn't want to sign an extension right now. He wants to bet on himself, prove his value, and hit the open market. That means this could end up being a one-year rental. A very expensive rental, considering the third-round pick they just gave up. Now, if he plays lights out this year, maybe that third-rounder feels worth it. But if he walked for nothing next offseason, that stings. There's a chance Dallas could place the franchise tag on him if things go well, but even that comes with a price. And let's talk numbers because this matters too. Right now, Pickens' camp is reportedly aiming for around $30 million per year. You heard that right. $30 million for your WR2. And keep in mind, the Cowboys are already about to pay CeeDee Lamb $34 million. That's a lot of money tied up in the receiver room. Just to give you a sense of the landscape, guys like A.J. Brown are sitting around the $60 million guaranteed range, and Miami's paying a fortune to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Cincinnati's doing the same with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's the market now. That's the reality. And Pickens' agent knows this. He shares representation with other top-tier receivers, and that means there's probably not going to be a friendly hometown discount. If Dallas wants to keep him, they better be ready to open the checkbook. And that brings us to the long-term cap situation. The Cowboys, believe it or not, have some flexibility here. Outside of a few core deals, they don't have a ton of long-term commitments right now. That gives them some room to maneuver, especially if they want to load up for a deep playoff run. But you better believe they're going to have to make some tough choices. You can't pay everybody. So who's the priority? Pickens has the potential to be worth it. That's the truth. But it's still an open question whether he'll show enough this season to warrant that kind of money. Because once you start talking about $30+ million for a guy who isn't your WR1, that's where things get complicated. And yeah, I know some of y'all are already thinking, just let him walk if it doesn't work out. And that's fair. If it's a one-year rental and he leaves in free agency, at least you tried. At least you made a move. That's better than standing pat and hoping for a miracle with an unproven depth chart. But still, you gave up a third-round pick. That's not nothing. That's a potential starter. That's a future asset that could have been flipped in another deal or used to build up a different area of the roster. So the pressure's on. Pickens needs to deliver. The Cowboys need this bet to hit. And speaking of roster moves, we're not done yet. The team is now over the player limit, which means someone has to go. A cut is coming. It might be one of the depth wide receivers. Maybe it's someone like Mingo or another bubble guy. But someone is getting released soon, that's for sure. And honestly, that's part of the cost of doing business when you bring in a player like Pickens. We'll talk more about what that means for the offense going forward and maybe even explore some defensive options the team might consider next. But for now, let's just acknowledge that this is a real, substantial move. It's a gamble, yes, but it's also a signal. The Cowboys are trying to level up. So now that the dust is settling on this trade, it's time to start thinking about what comes next. Because this move, as big as it is, creates a ripple effect throughout the entire organization. You don't just bring in a guy like George Pickens and expect everything else to stay the same. There will be consequences, some good, some potentially problematic, and how the Cowboys handle this transition will say a lot about how serious they really are about contending this season. First off, let's talk culture. The Cowboys have been trying to build a locker room with accountability and professionalism at the center. That's been the narrative. Coaches have talked about it. Players have echoed it. And now you bring in someone who, let's be honest, hasn't always been the easiest personality to manage. It's not about demonizing the guy. Pickens has rare talent, and players like him don't come around often. But he's going to test the boundaries of that locker room. The leadership core, guys like Dak, like Parsons, like Tyron Smith, they're going to have to step up and help keep things steady. Because if it starts to go sideways, it won't just affect Pickens. It could pull at the fabric of what they've been trying to build. Second, the clock is ticking. The contract situation isn't going away. Every week Pickens puts up numbers, his price tag goes up. And if he struggles, then you spend a third-rounder and maybe don't even get a comp pick in return. So the front office is walking a tightrope here. Do you try to lock him up early and hope to save some cash long-term? Or do you play it out and risk losing him entirely? It's a chess match, and right now, the agent's holding most of the pieces. And let's not forget about the upcoming cuts. The wide receiver room is crowded now, and it's about to get trimmed. Someone who's been grinding all offseason is going to lose their spot. That's always the harsh side of these deals. The business side. But that's also the cost of going all in, and that's what this move represents. It's not just about George Pickens. It's about finally breaking away from playing it safe. It's about pushing chips to the center of the table and saying, let's go. The hope is that Pickens thrives, that he clicks with Dak, that he opens up the offense, that his presence gives CD more space to operate and the defense another threat to worry about. If all of that comes together, this trade could look like a steal. But if things go south, it could be another one of those almost years we've seen too many times before. There's a lot riding on this. But for the first time in a while, it feels like the Cowboys are swinging for something bigger than just being competitive. They're aiming for real change. Now we wait to see if it all pays off. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. The NFL is currently conducting an investigation into Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott following suspicions of a potential doping violation. This development has sent shockwaves through the sports world, as Prescott is one of the league's most prominent quarterbacks and a key figure for the Cowboys. The investigation centers on whether Prescott may have violated the league's substance abuse policy, raising concerns about the integrity of the game and the athlete's future with the team. Prescott, who has been instrumental in the Cowboys' success in recent seasons, has enjoyed a stellar career since being drafted by Dallas in 2016. His leadership, athleticism, and ability to execute in high-pressure situations have made him a fan favorite and a crucial player in the Cowboys' offense. However, this recent investigation casts a shadow over his career and his reputation. The NFL's policy on performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, is strict, and any violation can result in significant consequences, including suspension and fines. The league has a comprehensive drug testing program in place, and any player found guilty of violating its rules faces serious repercussions. While the specifics of the investigation remain unclear, sources close to the situation have revealed that the league is thoroughly examining Prescott's recent performance and any potential irregularities in his training regimen or health-related activities. Prescott's legal team has yet to comment publicly on the investigation, and there has been no official statement from the Dallas Cowboys regarding the matter. However, team executives are likely closely monitoring the situation, given the importance of Prescott to the Cowboys' championship aspirations. A suspension or other disciplinary action against their star quarterback could have significant implications for the team's performance in the upcoming season. It is worth noting that Prescott has been an advocate for clean sports throughout his career, regularly speaking out about the importance of fair play and transparency in professional sports. This has made the recent investigation even more surprising to many, as it seems to contradict the values he has publicly championed. While some have expressed skepticism about the timing and validity of the investigation, others are urging caution until all the facts are made clear. The NFL's ongoing investigation into Dak Prescott's potential doping violation is a story that will undoubtedly continue to dominate headlines in the coming weeks. Fans and analysts alike will be watching closely to see how the league handles the situation and what, if any, actions will be taken against the star quarterback. As the investigation unfolds, the Dallas Cowboys' future may be uncertain, but one thing is clear: the sports world will be on edge, waiting for answers. With Prescott's future in the NFL hanging in the balance, both the Cowboys and their fan base are hoping that the investigation will ultimately clear his name and allow him to continue his career without further disruption. However, as with any doping investigation in professional sports, the stakes are high, and the outcome could have far-reaching consequences. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.